is also there today, today's panelist. So ask any questions, any doubts, and you will have 15 minutes time to clarify all your doubts.
Okay, thank you, Archita. Please raise your hand one by one. You can ask the question. Is there anyone? Please raise your hand for any question, any clarification. Till now, whatever we have covered. So what we have learned till now, the basics of intellectual property, and then we have gone into the deeper of the patent. What is patent? Why? How you can file the patents, etc. And in the last session, we have covered on the AI, artificial intelligence, and the IPR.
So,
Okay,
shall we wait for some more time for our participants to join because they are in the process?
Yeah. So no. Yeah. See, 11:15 we can start. Let's see that how many is joining. I will ask one question to everyone. Can you hear us? So I can ask you one question. Please raise your hand and give me the answer. So it is an objective question. I will give the problem statement now. Suppose a person, Amit has invented a bulb and he got a patent on bulb. After 3 years, a person named Anirban, he has invented a power saving bulb by twisting the tungsten wire, and he claimed that he has invented a power saving bulb which can save around 40% of the bulb of the power. So there is two persons. One person's name is Amit, who has invented a bulb, and after 3 years, a person named Anirban, who invented a power saving bulb, and both of them got their individual patents. The person Amit has got the bulb patent, and the person Anirban has got a patent on the modified bulb, that is a power saving bulb. Now my question to all of you, who has the, I will ask 4 questions after this one. Raise your hand. The person, so who has the power or who can manufacture and sell the power saving bulb? How many of you think Amit has the Amit can manufacture and sell the power saving bulb? Please raise your hand. Okay, again I am giving you the problem statement. There is 2 persons, Amit and Anirban. Amit has invented a bulb and got a patent. Anirban invented a power saving bulb after 3 years and got another patent on the power saving bulb. Now my question is, who can manufacture and sell the power saving bulb? How many of you think that Amit can manufacture and sell the power saving bulb, though Amit has a bulb patent? Please raise your hand.
Sir, there is one candidate, Dr. Anirban Goswami has raised his hand. Shubhajit Paul is also there, Mr. Shubhajit
Yeah,
Paul.
yeah, I can see. Let me count. Okay, there is 3 hands. Who can believe that Amit, who has a bulb patent, can manufacture and sell the power saving bulb? Now my next question: how many of you believe that Anirban, who has the patent on the power saving bulb, can manufacture and sell? Please raise your hand. How many of you believe that Anirban, who has the patent on the power saving bulb, can manufacture and sell the power saving bulb? There are still okay. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 25 has raised in favor of Anirban, who has the power saving bulb patent. How many of you believe that both of the guy can manufacture and sell the power saving bulb? Okay, I got it. Now I'll lower down your hand. Orchita, can you lower down all the hands?
Yeah, yes. But I have to do it individually. That's why it will take up time. Sir,
Yeah.
Yeah, probably
Okay.
I have.
In favor of Amit, I have counted 3. In favor of Anirban, I counted 25. In favor of both of them can manufacture and sell the power saving bulb, raise 5 hands. Now, my last question: nor Anirban, neither Anirban nor Amit can manufacture and sell. Please raise your hand. Please raise your hand. How many of you believe that neither Anirban nor Amit can sell the power saving bulb? Okay, I can see 3 hands. Any more? How many of you believe that neither Anirban nor Amit can manufacture and sell? Okay, 3 hands has come. Okay, so majority of you believe 4 hands has come. Now majority of you believe that only Anirban, who has the power saving bulb, can manufacture and sell the power saving bulb. Okay, so I'll come to the right question, right answer. The right answer is neither Amit nor Anirban can manufacture and sell the power saving bulb. Here is the catch of the patent. Patent is basically a negative right. So that's why we covered the freedom to operate. So getting patent is not ensuring that anyone can manufacture and sell the product. So before selling the product, we always require to do a FTO analysis, that freedom to operate or freedom to practice in the market analysis. Because if Anirban, who has the power saving bulb patent, start manufacturing, he will going to infringe the bulb patent because he has to manufacture the bulb. So once he started manufacturing the bulb, he will going to infringe the bulb patent. So Anirban cannot manufacture or sell the power saving bulb, though he has the bulb patent, the power saving bulb patent. And Amit, who has the bulb patent and doesn't have the power saving bulb patent, cannot also manufacture or sell the power saving bulb. So this is the beauty of the IPR system. For example, if you think in other way that Anirban is a small inventor who doesn't have the money but has the brain and has a research capability and R&D capability, who has came out with this power saving bulb and filed a patent, where Amit, suppose he is employed in a large company, big company, for example, it is Philips, he also cannot. So Anirban can enforce Amit that if Amit can give him the license, or Amit can take the license from Anirban, then only Amit can manufacture. So a small company, a startup, an individual can make lots of money if he has the knowledge and capability for doing some research and getting the power saving bulb. He can enforce a big player to take the license, otherwise he will not allow the person to enter into the market with a power saving bulb. So here is, that is called that patent is a negative right, and here is the beauty of the IPR system, where a small guy, a small party or small company can always enforce a big guy to take the license, otherwise they can stop. So in this example, what we understand is that getting a patent and enjoying the patent by manufacturing, selling in the market is two different things. The power, the person who having a patent has the right, only right, to stop others to come into the market. Any questions?
Pinaki sir, I think it's 11, almost 11:15. Let's start the session for today, and end of the session we are going to take more questions they have in this process, right? Once again, a very good morning to all the participants. Thanks for your wonderful cooperation for all these days, because we the devastation that has caused due to this super cyclone, and we are actually got disconnected. Right now, I'm sure some of our participants couldn't connect to us, but we are actually trying to give them a support. Let's see what form of support we can give them, because actually we are missing them even in this session. Today we have Dr. Jayanta Ghosh sir with us. He is going to give us a lecture on IPR in academics, and which is going to be a very interesting topic for all of us. Now I request Dr. Pinaki Ghosh to introduce today's panelist. Over to Pinaki Ghosh. Sir, please.
Thank you, Archita. Thank you, everyone, and very good morning to everyone. So now, today we will going to talk on that IPR system in the education, and how we, as a educationist, what are the loopholes and what are the plus points that IPR system can give, and how we can use this IPR system. So today the panelist and the speaker is Mr. Dr. Jayanta Ghosh. He has done his PhD on intellectual property from IIT Kharagpur, and he has a LLB degree also. And he is a recipient of many other international and national from the National Forum. So welcome, Jayanta. Please start.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to the organizer. So I believe everyone can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, thank you everyone. So yeah. So before going to start, I believe I can see here only 100 number of participants. So it's almost 50%. So I feel very sorry for others, those who will miss this opportunity to learn little bit about from me and from my very little knowledge. So today I'll going to speak on intellectual property in academia. So as I know, and last couple of presentation, I can hear that maximum of you are from academics, I think so. With that presumption, I want to give some brief idea about what we need to follow in academics in relation to IPR. So if we think about IPR system, before that we should know only one thing, that is property. In relation to this property aspects, here I have categorized in three things: scientific understanding in relation to property, and legal understanding, and economic understanding. Why? Because all these three aspects is related to intellectual property. In relation to scientific understanding, properties are attributes, characterized, or qualities that can be applied generally to a group of object. I can say one of the machine. And in relation to legal aspects, which is very much related to intellectual property law, and in that aspects we can say that yes, we are talking about patent. Yeah, patent is one of the exclusive right to the inventor. Author has also a exclusive right on his book and whatever published item on his or her name. And in relation to economic aspects, economic understanding of property, property includes all individuals and valuable resources in relation to economic concern. So with that, we have some bundle of rights in relation to property concern, and this also connected with intellectual property. Here are some bundle of rights: right to own, exclusive use, disallow others from its use, right to sell, transfer, donate, rent. I believe all of you knows about all these things. And if anybody doesn't know about any of the aspects, please raise your hand at the end of my lecture. Okay. In relation to this property, here we can come with two things: intangible and tangible. In relation to IPR is concerned, it's totally intangible property, which we cannot see, we cannot touch, we cannot smell. There are also some other exceptions. And in relation to tangible property, which we can see, like table, chair, buildings, whatever the things. Yes, coming to the aspects of intellectual property specific in concern, is just a brief I am giving all of you to set the tune of this lecture. Intellectual property is a creation of the mind. Who we are a human being. So what we can do, we can use our mind, we can use our intellectual aspects, and we can create something which is not possible by a, you know, by others, excluding human. So in that aspects, this invention, authorship, this stuffs only lies with the human. And with that very specific concern, this is the world accepted definition of intellectual property, where we can see each and every part which comes in a very lucid way, and it's given by the WIPO. And WIPO convention is the one of the most important convention in relation to intellectual property, where it speaks literary, artistic, dramatic, scientific works. These are relating to intellectual property, which is includes in relation to intellectual property: performings, phonographs, broadcast, and scientific discoveries, blah blah blah. These are the stuffs. So with that specific definition of intellectual property given by WIPO, I move forward to the basic principles. Why this intellectual property is at all required, and where from the basic roots, the principles of intellectual property, how it's evolved. It's there is two things only. where contract between, I believe all of you know about the contract between creator and the sovereign state, where from we can claim our intellectual property from the state owner, uh, from the state owner. And other than that, the balance of rights of creator and public interest, where the public interest aspects is lies with the creator. Here, public interest in terms of your work should not be, plagiarized in a very concise way. I can say your work should not be copied, your work should not be duplicated, and it's an exclusive right of your works. These two basic principles is related to intellectual property. This is purely an academic understanding, and in that aspect there is types, these types already it's discussed here. Then also I'm just highlighting one thing. There are one thing called soft IP, which we doesn't have any legal bindingness in terms of legal laws. There's secrets, know-how, and confidentiality. In relation to trade secret, we don't have any specific legal norms or principles in relation to in India is concerned. But other than that, that copyright, industrial properties, trademark, patent, industrial design, all those what we have, these are already covered under different legislations, special legislations. And with that, I can say little bit in relation to dispute. Yeah, this is just a two glimpse of what I have shared here. This is a two glimpse. I believe all of you knows about the famous GU copyright case. Let's move into the academic aspects. GU copyright case, copyright infringement case. How it came? It came in the year 2012. It's a case filed by the one of the agencies that in relation to the copyright of the compilation in relation to academics works. Compilation work, does it fall under copyright infringement? Here the apex court at the end of this debate and blah 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 stuffs, because I will come to the each and every aspects one by one, but the crux of this DU copyright case is in relation to idea expression dichotomy. I will come to that in a very wide way. Just to tell you the exact what happens, what apex court gives in this case, it speaks about the infringement is not happened in this case because they took the plea in relation to section 52 of the Indian Copyright Act, where exemptions is given to the non-copyright owner in terms of like you and me, those who have not created or authored any work, where we can use the others work with the plea that it's not infringed to others work. This is purely based on academics aspects, where in this case, the work what is compiled with a Xerox machine, it's not fall under copyright infringement. And along with that, there is another aspects in academic online sharing of an article. It's in that case, the students face imprison's charge. How? This is totally different. Both the side is totally, both the instance is totally different. One is got the infringement, and another is makes free from charge. So how it happens? I'm coming one by one. In relation to that, there as we are academicians, there is few policy where we usually used to share our work in ResearchGate and academia. But can we know all the terms and conditions of ResearchGate and academia? Really feel very sorry for that, that a maximum of us doesn't know what this platform exactly, how they are running with the copyright issues, copyright policies. So let me give you this small brief. In relation to ResearchGate, they doesn't hold any copyright. Once I'm an academician, I want to share my article with the ResearchGate platform, they will definitely ask that click wrap system contract, where they will make them free from copyright infringement. How? Because when they are making this click wrap contract, no, it's kind of smart contract, that portion is specifically mentioned about they will not hold any kind of copyright infringement, copyright aspects in relation to of your work. Once you're publishing, suppose you're publishing in XYZ journal, and you want to share that portion of your work with the ResearchGate. Before that, you have to know that XYZ journal doesn't have any copyright issues in relation to sharing of your work on your personal capacity or not. If there is any forbidden aspects, there is a prohibition in relation to your work, then you should not share the whole work with ResearchGate. That's what the ResearchGate is every time in their click wrap contract they are mentioning. Similarly, in case of academia also, you can share your work when you are allowed, when you are free to share that work with academia platform. So here is the concept of this aspects in relation to Colombian, in relation to yeah, in relation to this Colombian free accept it, this student faces charges this aspects, because uh, in in that aspects, that article where it's published, that journal doesn't have any that journal has already prohibited that that you cannot share your work with others. Like Elsevier, Springer, what they do, they they are highly paid journal. When this economic aspects came, that time they will not give you free of cost in every copyrighted work, because they holds their copyrighted work. And in relation to that, this copyright policy of academia and ResearchGate is little bit flexible in terms of only they are only giving you highlight on one aspect that which is mentioned in their terms and conditions specifically, when they will not take care of any kind of copyright infringement. I have my own ResearchGate account, where I can share my work on private basis if it is prohibited and or forbidden by any other journal. If it is not prohibited by any journal, then I can share it with publicly. This is the main distinctions and few academics policy. I don't know how far of you are known about this fact, but before sharing your articles, before sharing your I'm just speaking on articles, you can say it's related to thesis and books and other stuffs also, where copyright issues is most important, because it's about your economy. When you will get the royalty after selling your paid journal or on any paid database, then you can earn money. But if you shared it freely, then you cannot, where the distinction lies with the open access. I will come to that later on. Yeah, in relation to this also, that you know genuine windows, yeah, genuine windows also comes under this aspects. In relation to when you are using windows, it should be genuine. Other countries, they maximum of developed countries, they are using the only genuine windows, where in India you can get it anytime anywhere as a pirated versions. It's not a big deal to get. And yeah, in relation to YouTube, where we can see that, yeah, YouTube maximum videos, when you can like suppose this recording, you cannot you cannot just simply put it in the YouTube before taking the permission of the presenter, without taking the permission of the presenter, because it hampers the academic copyright policy. This is also a if you didn't take any permission in writing, so to say, this will be another problem. Before you can make it, you can publish it in another terms, that this is for educational purpose but not for commercial purpose, then only you can post it, this lecture, or this presentation. And I believe all maximum of you are the academicians, so you are giving the class lecture, and some of your students take whole video and put it in the YouTube, and they are running the ad below, before or after, or in between the between your lecture, and they are earning from it. And in that aspects, YouTube has the filtration process. Actually, when I was in Hamburg, Germany, in Google office, I had one workshop with the YouTube team, how they are filtered all these aspects. They have their specific sequential aspects in relation to YouTube uploading concepts. So here also we are stopped because of the copyright policy. And in this copyright policy, in relation to India, we have that act, Copyright Act 1957, and later on it's amended also. With that, move into the most important aspects, IP in academia, in relation to IP and research. I heard in the first lecture, when Pinaki sir was taking the lecture, that time there's a question, I forgot the name of the person. I don't know whether he is present today or not. He asked that whether a student, if I'm correctly remembered, whether a student can take the advantage of the sim publication in relation to PI or co-PI aspects. So in that aspects, when you are doing research with a team of students, there is only one thing: you should give the benefit of each and every person in relation to that work. Here, the most important pillar is university and public research institutes. If your university doesn't have any IP policy in relation to this kind of stuffs, this kind of works, then you cannot claim, so to say. And other aspects, claim, in what terms claim came, I'm I'm coming to that. And other aspects, if your university or PRIs have the specific IP policy in relation to R&D is concerned, in relation to academics is concerned, then you are stopped. Some other aspects in relation to, you know, yeah, IP policy always helps to give the advantage or benefit to each and every person who holds the IP, who holds the IP created works. And in relation to, if your students has created the given his skill, labor, then they should get the benefit out of it. And in relation to that, this university's IP policy is concentrated on this contract terms, and it's specifically mentioned in relation to consent aspects. There is a big disclaimer every time whenever you are looking for IP policy. There is a consent term, as this lecture also holds the consent term of mine and others too, before publishing it. So in relation to that, if you are keeping this kind of stuffs in your database, in your specific platform where it is not commercially used, up to that this is okay. But if it is commercially being used, then it is a highly infringed matter if you are making it making, if you are not giving the benefit to the specific right holder. If this lecture is giving money to this Techno India or the hosts, those who are organizing this FDP, then they should give the royalty to the specific right holder who has the creator or the author of or the owner of this. And in relation to that, the university always holds the ownership capacity. Here is one doctrine called work for hire doctrine, where we are 100% fully employed to an agency or organization. There we should it is a default version where our work belongs to the employee, to the agency where we are working. And if there is nothing is mentioned in their copyright, in their IP policy, then in that aspects, this is free in terms of other works. Suppose I worked in NUJS, so I used to write and publish my articles there. University holds only one right, where we should acknowledge, we should give give the aspects to the give the specific aspects in relation to publishing, acknowledgement to the university. Rather than that, I can hold my authorship up to this, where my IP policy doesn't prohibit me. And in relation to that, the same aspects IP in teaching, in relation to teaching, when when the copyrighted work, that's suppose the live performance of your class, and where university deals with the ownership management, the same aspects, where access to scholarly information. If you are not selling all these live performances, up to that, this is okay. If you are making profit out of that live performances of that class lecture, suppose online classes, online mock that swamp platform classes, then that should provide the royalty to the owner in terms of, or the author in terms of that specific work, where universities or PRIs should should give the acknowledgement and benefit. And here the specific exemption came when this is used by a student, and where he can take the plea that I'm not bound for a royalty because I am a student and using that work for educational purpose. Once this word came, educational purpose, then everything is exempted in relation to liability is concerned. With that, moving forward, yes, this research exemption, where this very well-known term fair dealings and fair use comes. How fair dealing, how fair use? Uh, for example, I have created this PowerPoint presentation for your benefit, and you all are now copying or taking the slides in your mobile phone with a screenshot, and later on you used it and on your name. But then if I can see this same thing, same texture, same words, everything is used by you in a open platform where you are earning money out of it, I can claim that yes, you infringed my work, you infringed this copyright portion of my work. But where where you can, what would be your defense? You can say this is for educational purpose, where you can take the exemption plea, as like as DU copyright case happens. DU copyright case, they are giving they are taking that plea, defense plea, in relation to exemptions of fair dealing, where they are exempted and they are skipped, they skipped from their liability. With that same disputes came, I believe maximum of you know about that monkey selfie case and David's letter. Here also the same disputes where human rather than human, a monkey can claim for copyright. Well, this is also a dispute in relation to copyright aspects, and this also settled that no, except human intervention, this is not possible to be to take the advantage of copyright, where the owner has the only person who can take the benefit of the benefit of the copyright aspects. Well, how to deal with this industry and industry academic collaboration conflicts? There are some privileges in relation to professor's privilege, where privilege in terms of fund aspects, where economy is concerned. Yes, if you are taking the fund from industry, and you making an academic deal where the IP policy doesn't support you in terms of creation of that IP, there you should mention your university or PRIs, or whatever the agency you hold or you are working, your privileges in terms of getting. Suppose you taking fund from Bosch, and in your university lab you are using the technology, and you gave them a different kind of machine for using for making marketize it, where the privilege of university and you as a professor comes comes in the form of license assignment. These two aspects, where if the collaborator, that means the industry, the Bosch industry, is assigning you that work in on your individual capacity, that will be different. And if the agency or industry comes with your university and your university selects you to work on that, that would be different. Both in each and every aspects is totally different, and different countries have their own agenda in relation to dealing with this kind of stuffs. Actually, I also got an offer from an industry in of uh, Scotland, where I have to work on renewable energy laws in relation to energy laws in relation to industry perspective or specific industry. So in that aspects, they directly deal with me, where I am not connected with any agency, where I am free to take the advantage of any kind of agreement work, as per my royalty, as per my time, as per my IP concern. This is free to do with me. But when I am connected with any agency, connected or employed, where a university is concerned, so to say, then I have to look for university IP policy, where the relaxation and exemption part is mentioned. Yes, in relation to students and ownership of IP right. Yeah, if the students is sponsored like ICAR, NISO, CAIR, this kind of UGC sponsored, there we have to give the specific acknowledgement to the agency. Actually, I'm a recipient of Indo-Canadian Shastri Fellow. So when I when I submitted my PhD, I had given the specific acknowledgement in my thesis, that where their name should be mentioned, agency's name, because they have funded me. And where the terms and condition is concerned, when they have given me offer letter, there also it is mentioned that further any work related to this tenure should be acknowledged them. and where I have acknowledged in one of my presentation in JNU and SMU Singapore, and one of the paper also I have acknowledged them. So whatever the work I have I have created that time, that tenure of 6 months, I have given the whole credit to them. I have whole acknowledged to the agency where from I got the funding is concerned. Similarly, in academics, this is very common and natural, where university IP policy is very stricter in terms of giving all these research-based agreements aspects. Yes, where the ideology and these basic values of copyright, where these four aspects: individualism, commodification, reward, and consumerism. These four aspects totally based on or taking care of copyright aspects in relation to, or so to say, can IP aspects of intellectual property aspects of work. Individualism, when you have created your work and where your identity is the most important aspects of as aspects as an author or inventor or owner. And commodification, when your work is to be treated as a commodity level, like a book, like a mobile phone, whatever it may be. And reward comes when the royalty comes. And consumerism in terms of, yes, I believe you know about the patent three things: non-obviousness, novelty, and industrial applications. So consumerism comes on these aspects. This four basic values and ideology in relation to copyright, and so to say IP also, you can say. And there are other three aspects where copyright lies: philosophical aspects, legal aspects, and functional aspects. One by one, let's see the philosophical aspects. In terms of philosophical aspects, this four things: creativity of your mind, of your work; idea expression, which is one of the most, that's why I put it in the center; originality; and fixation. Let's talk about idea expression, how copyright can be acquired. A idea, I believe all of you are aware of Indian film industries. Yeah, this is very common. To give a simple example, in relation to any film you can take off, there is three persons: one is boy, one is girl, one is villain. You can say this three persons are or I can say the three dot, 1 2 3, three dot, with different angles, different persons. When it's together comes in a big platform in different way, then it comes with an expression. This is how the general statement or the specific idea of how copyright can be acquired. With that, you can say this is the journey from idea to expression. How a boy met with a girl, I gave the name of the boy and the girl in the second sentence, and third sentence I gave them another expression. This is where they met, city center mall, and where they city center mall in Starbucks cafe. So this small expression adding to a big expression, where that Rocky and Ranjana meet with city center to exchange the class notes of physics subject. That total expression can be copyrightable, not that this first one. This is the copyrighted matter. There the distinctions lies, where you have to plea on your own each and every time. With that, you have to say that uh, your work is protected under copyright. Once you created this work, then only you can say. You cannot say here or there, in between. In Indian film also, This is the same expression. They are used in each and every film. And they come with a specific expression. When you see or see the crux of a story, it starts with this only, but it ends with this. When the ends comes, the neat result where labor, skill, and judgment, these three things is installed with your idea, then only it becomes expression, then only you can claim for copyright. Well, legal aspects. These are the legal stuffs where you can look for your work is copyrighted or not, you are infringing or not. These are blah blah stuffs. If anybody has any specific concern on in relation to legal aspects, these are international stuffs where copyright is aspects is differently dealt with, and this is Indian aspects, Indian Copyright Act 1957 with this amendment. uh, I would not say much more things because this is totally a legal aspects. The functional aspects is concerned, the work must be original, yeah, and it should be created by a qualified person, not a mad person, or and the work should not be goes to public domain without the creative authors permissions and other stuff. Yes, these are the functional aspects. And moving towards the copyright owner's right. Yes, what the copyright owners can take their rights, where right of reproduction, that's exclusive rights, gives you making a copy of your work. Making a copy of your work, but it's prohibited up to the commercialization of your work. If you commercialize on your own, then you are not allowed to. You can reproduce your work, but you cannot give you cannot sell it. And the second one is the right of modification and adaptation. You can modify, you can make the adaptation works of your work. You can distribute, and you can make it public performance. Suppose you wrote a poem and you recite it in public platform, you can play a dance. This is your right, and you can make it public display also. These are some specific rights of a copyright owner. And who are the stakeholders in academia? Authors, so to say faculties, publishers, faculty, along with that faculty, students are also involved, researchers also involved. In relation to publishers, commercial for profit purpose, academic or non-profit purpose. There is the lies where academics comes, where non-profit, yeah. Suppose you can say Oxford publisher, are they are not making profit? Yes, they are making profit, but it's not related to academics. Academics is different, and their selling of this high ranged books is totally different. In university is concerned, yes, administrator is one of the stakeholders, librarian also one of the stakeholders, and public in general, public also has stakeholders in relation to academia, where academics works are being used by the public. That time this is also an aspects where the stakeholders is a public agency. And the concern in relation to academia, yeah, access to information, where the availability and quality and privacy and simplicity and clarity of legal regime, these four aspects, where the privacy is most important and the availability is another most important aspects. I will not go for the quality stuffs, because quality stuffs is always backed by idea expression dichotomy policy, this expression. And availability and the privacy in relation to concern, if your publishing agency stops you or prohibit you, you cannot share any kind of public any kind of information in relation to that work with others or with any other agencies. And the impact in relation to technology is concerned, distribution, ease of reproduction and ease of distribution and ease of compression. These three things is the another aspects where that as I gave in the first instance, that example of ResearchGate and academia. These three instances come in a way. This is that part, that file sharing and cloud computing. I'll not go for. I just mentioned it here. File sharing and cloud computing. This is another disputed area in relation to academia is concerned, where in Indian laws is little bit silent in relation to this aspect, because peer-to-peer sharing and that cloud sharing concept is still not yet been well designed in Indian laws. But but rather than these aspects is already well designed as per Indian legal is concerned, legal aspects. But file sharing and cloud computing is not yet in my understanding is so. In this aspect, there's very big question in relation to that. What is fair use? Can I use your work anywhere, any platform, anywhere without taking any permission? Then in that case, what is fair use comes, where this four factor analysis is most important, where purpose, nature, amount, and marketing. This PNAM is most important for determining the fair use. The purpose, which purpose you are using this your work or somebody else work, and what kind of nature of work it is, and how much amount you are gaining out of it, or it is free of cost, or whatever the likes, and the marketing strategy, marketing in terms of whether you are using it for your own purpose or somebody else purpose, or you are using this in your hotel for making the ambience is good with this song and any video play, whatever. So this four factor is most important to determine the fair use. Well, this is well debated aspects. This is plagiarism. I believe everyone knows about it. Rather going to that in details of plagiarism, it's already disputed because of this different softwares is concerned, because every software has their own categorical distinctions, where you can say yes. This live story I can share with you. Some days back, one of my friend is going to submit this his thesis, and his university policy is totally based, totally gives a disclaimer that you should get through it from Urkund software. I believe maximum of you know about that Urkund software. So in that case, what happened when he run through that Urkund software, and his work is plagiarized 8% by Urkund, where it is specifically mentioned in relation to Facebook, WhatsApp, sorry, not WhatsApp, Instagram, different database. So where in the academy is concerned, these social media platforms are also coming in this Urkund, and what is the standardization aspects in relation to this kind of softwares. We know very well known software is Turnitin in relation to this plagiarism is concerned, but there are other softwares also, plagiarism checker, plagiarism detector. These are different softwares, but highly recognized and accepted. But I cannot say it is standard, because every university, every institution has their own standardization policy. So in that aspects, when first time it came 8%, then again his supervisor told him to make it to get it through from by Turnitin. So when it comes under Turnitin, it shows 16%. How it comes, no one knows. So it's depends, as far as my understanding is concerned, because of the database. I think all of you know about GitHub database. So how much database it has on its own, and to my understanding, once I also wrote to plagiarism that how far you can make that similarity context is a plagiarized. Then they have specifically mentioned this similarity context is not at all speaks about your work is plagiarized. It's just giving you a standard identity where this work is easily available. So it's again it's a debated aspect. So plagiarism is concerned. Yeah, this is the most important aspects where copyright infringement. This is plagiarism part. This is the copyright infringement part. Legal aspects and moral aspects. This is the zone when you take it without permission and pass it off as of your work. This is the plagiarized part, where you cannot claim any kind of any kind of your copyright not infringed. So here is the zone when both of this is met with this aspects, there you can claim it's a copyright infringement specifically. uh, just to know, these are the symbols of different Creative Commons and public domain. Yeah, let's come to this Creative Commons. What it's or we used to see this Creative Commons aspects in different database like Elsevier and Springer also. They have, there's some of the aspects is free, and here most important things is what is default terms and conditions in relation to copyright is all right reserved to some rights reserved. Some rights reserved, all rights are reserved, then also to some rights are reserved. And a Creative Commons a platform generally it gives a free open access platform, copyright licensing, where copy left doctrine also comes in play, where the work is easily available and you can take that work and you can make necessary changes of your work. It's speaks about copy left, but here you can take that work but you cannot make necessary changes on that specific work, excluding your exemption part. Your exemption part is different in relation to Creative Commons aspects is concerned. These are the different licenses of Creative Commons. Generally we are guided under CC BY, where copy, distribute, display, perform and derivative works and commercial and non-commercial use by, this is CC BY attribution. Generally we are guided by this, and others aspects is in relation to different organizational stuffs and share likes, and this is by in relation to social media platforms. So copyrighted work are different in that aspects. Yeah, in relation to public domain, as I told you that public domain works always those who have already expired. Suppose we have we have the life of copyrighted work. Yes, here you can see this Rabindranath Tagore songs, Shakespeare's, Beethoven. These all are freely available in public domain because their copyrighted year is expired. It's already expired. That's why you can get it. You can get it in a very easy way. In a very easy way. So this is totally public domain where copyright is not lies, and you can cite that, or you can cite these works without acknowledging also, no problem with that. Yeah, this is the copyright file sharing and copyright issues. It's a very debated, and it's not yet settled because of that one concept, peer-to-peer sharing. Yeah, computer science experts can highly deal with these stuffs each and every time, because we are sharing our files from here to there in a very there are some apps, so apps where file share and then TeamViewer, these apps are also comes under copyright aspects in relation to this, but it's not fixed in relation to India. They are specifically goes by smart contracts, smart terms and standardization of their contractual policy, not by any copyrighted laws as far as concerned. Yeah, this is one of my last slide. I believe I have exceeded the time. Yeah, almost. And this is in relation to your YouTube and Facebook is concerned. And Facebook, why I took it, because of this these days social media, we can get news and other stuffs in each and every moment. We can get the live update, but how far we can protect it under copyright laws in relation to this Facebook work. Once we created our work and you just I just put it on poem in Facebook, but whether I will get it, what's the basic, what's the copyrighted aspects there. Facebook is totally covered each and every aspect so in relation to copyright because of their legal aspects and the material whatever uploaded to the Facebook, suppose my photographs, my videos, lectures in Facebook, so then this these aspects are very very stringently follows. So this is open to all of you. Before going to any posting and any live video lecture in YouTube, please go through the copyright policy, or else your work will not be given you any kind of royalty, any kind of benefit out of it, because it's your work and you should get the benefit of it. With that, thank you all, and you can we can go for a question answering session.
Thank you, Jayanta. Now this time for question and answer. Please raise your hand one by one and then ask the questions. So I'm seeing Mr. Sudipta Chakraborty has raised hand. Sudipta, please go ahead.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, myself Sudipta Chakraborty. I have two specific questions. The first question is, what are the conflicts of commitment and conflicts of interest in relation to academic research and IP?
Okay.
What's
Conflicts
the
of
second question?
should I go one by one?
First question is, what are the conflicts of commitment and conflicts of interest in relation to academic research and IP?
We got it. What is the second question?
And second question is, what are the possible IP ownership schemes for inventions resulting from public funded research?
Okay.
Okay.
First one, the conflict of IP in relation to academics. There's only one thing. When you are publishing your work, you have to publish it you have to publish it on a specific platform. So before that, you should look for the publication policy of that specific journal or specific publishing agencies that you should look for. And in relation to that, only one aspect came where conflicted with IP is concerned, that when you will look for that copyright policy in relation to that specific agency or journal, suppose I can say Springer Nature, because some days ago I have submitted one paper on Springer Nature, where it is specifically mentioned you have to give the conflict of interest in relation to your work. Conflict of interest, it should be free from conflict of interest in other each and every participants related to that research work. Suppose your work is a database collection from the village, so you have to give the proper understanding, proper sorry, not understanding, it's a kind of proper authentication and their acknowledgement and their permission before submitting your work. That conflict of interest with IP is only in relation to copyright work, because you are giving the data or information of that specific person, where that can be a dispute in relation to, because of another legal regime it comes in here. It's called data protection, where privacy clause is concerned. Yeah, the second question in relation to public funded research. Yes, public funded research, if you are doing it in your university, their only terms and condition is in question, because once your terms and conditions clarifies or clears about your institute IP policy and the public funded research or funded agencies organization terms and conditions, then you should look for or you should give the credit to that specific agencies and everybody in relation to the terms and conditions. You have to go through the terms and conditions before publishing any work or before doing any kind of stuffs in relation to IP is concerned. Yeah, I can see another and Mr. Omio Shorkar. Yes, Mr. Omio
Yeah,
Shorkar. Yeah.
can I speak now?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Actually, we teachers normally while doing project work with our students
Mhm.
or working in industry, we create new ideas, no thought process are
Yes,
there. How can we protect these thought processes in terms of IPR?
sir. The specific concern is when you are connected with your students. Number one point, you should make a disclaimer. This is my my style of work. I can say I should make a disclaimer with that student that the idea should not be shared with anybody. If it is exclusive idea and you can make kind of patent application, and you should give NDA, non-disclosure agreement, if you want to go with legal perspective with your students. Generally what happens with the students, they are casual with all these stuffs. In relation to IP is concerned, it should not be casually taken. Once you are coming with any kind of specific idea for patent or publishing work, you should make a disclaimer with your students first. And the second thing is that suppose your university doesn't hold any kind of IP policy. In that aspect, just a instance, in that aspect, you should make your own periphery with your students. You are employed with the university, but your students are not employed. They are taking everything casually. It's used to, we know very well. But if as a teacher, we should protect our work from infringement, from that copying. So for that we have to be strict in these two aspects only. One, it should not be goes without any publication, or that idea should not be leaked, so to say. Idea should not be hacked before you making it published, or make it under copyrighted aspects. This is the thing, sir. Yeah.
Okay. In
Okay.
addition, what Jayanta has told, what I will just give two more points. That is, when you do a research in your institute with the students, first of all, there should be a IPR policy of the institution or the university. If there is no IPR policy, it's very difficult to handle this kind of situation. What I understand from your principal, sir, and the management of the Techno, that there will be a IPR cell in Techno where you can get all the assistance. So there should be a policy under which the students, the professors, the outsiders, so everyone will be covered into that one, and there will be a clear guideline will be established. Till the guideline is not established, as Joyanta has told, the students has to abide by certain discipline with the professors. First, the student should not leak the idea. Second, if those ideas are patentable ideas, and if the professors wants to file the patent, they should not publish. Once the patent has been done, patent filed, once the patent has filed, then the publication has no issue. But if the publication is first and filing patent is the second, then there will be no patent. The getting granted patent will be much difficult, because patent, first and foremost thing is the patent should be novel. So it has not been disclosed. So first is the filing patent. Even if it is a provisional patent, that is okay. But first has to file patent and then publish it. If there is no patentable subject matter, then it should be published. And then in the first Sudipta, what Mr. Sudipta asked in the first questions, that what is the public funded project, and what is the IPR policy, and what is the nuances or the disadvantage or advantage of the IPR in the institute, all actually has come into one thing. That is in US, something that there is an act called Boydell Act. Unfortunately, in India, there was no Boydell Act, though it has been tabled in the parliament in 2009. The replica of the Boydell Act, that is university and the public funded projects, or the private funded projects, that who will going to IPR, which portion of the ownership of the IPR will go to whom. But unfortunately, in India, there is no such act is established. So the individual university has to take care of that one. So when there is a public funded project, there has to be a contract between the university and the public funded projects. Which department is giving the fund, there should be a clear cut IPR provisions, IPR clauses in the contract, and that has to be abide by. And within university, the ownership of the IPR between university and the individual professors and the students, there also should be a clear-cut guideline. There should be most of the institutes in India, not only India, in the world, the ownership is always with the institutes. If there is no policy or no such agreement or no such things are there, then it's very difficult to manage those kind of things. The ownership is always there, because most of the professors work for hire. So under the regime of the work for hire, that all ownership of the intellectual property by default goes to the institute for which the professors and the others has been hired for. But there is a little bit dispute, because the professors are cannot be always for work for hire, because they have their own thought, own research agreement, own research things. So those dispute has to be cleared once the guideline and the policy has been established. So thank you. Any more questions? Please raise your hand. Hopefully I have clarified. Any more questions? Please raise your hand. Okay. So there is no more hand. Archita, over to you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. With this, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you, Dr. Jayanta Ghosh, for joining with us and delivering such a wonderful idea and sharing your thoughts with us. What can be the possible opportunities and what precautions we should take when we are going to file our own works. Thank you so much for joining with us, and great thanks to all my dear participants who have joined us today. And with this, we come to the end of today's session, and see you all on 26th at 11 a.m. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.